people might not know a lot about New Orleans, but most of what they love about America is from New Orleans. This amalgamation of races and histories and heritages coming together to create something beautiful, and a specific kind of blackness that exists here because of the nature of enslavement and freedom and what that looked like here. I came to New Orleans as a young reporter, and I emerged from Katrina as a journalist, really starting to understand how the cogs and mechanisms of this city actually worked. When I first landed in New Orleans, I found an honest people, a beautiful, rich culture, a dynamic city, but not a city without its problems. One thing I noticed early on is the deep, deep inequity and the disparities in the way people live in the city, but also the ways in which people die in the city, right? And then how we're experiencing this city and this country in between the birthing and the dying. All of that was exacerbated and amplified on the other side of the storm, because the issues that this city was facing beforehand were only magnified 10, 20-fold. The issues of hunger, the issues of a generation of young people being unmoored by the storm, the police corruption that had been here before. We learned so much more about the police violence and the brutality and the corruption that we saw after the storm. My film is called Hope in High Water, A People's Recovery 20 years after Hurricane Katrina. So on this anniversary, 20 years later, and it's hard to believe it's been 2 decades, to come back and take stock of how the people of this city found a way to heal when systems, right, and politicians and monies dry up or fail. And not this funny resilience, but a resolve, a persistent, right, that people have everything they need inside of them to heal. They just need the resources. So it's important for me to focus on all those issues and how the communities are healing themselves. As a journalist, as a Black man in America, as someone who believes my mission is to tell the truth and to shine light in dark places and speak to the mechanics of this country and how people experience it. This truly, in so many ways, is my life's work. So my book is called 1,000 Ways to Die, The True Cost of Violence on Black Life in America. It's out September 9th. I set out to tell the story of the true cost of violence. And then something happened that changed everything. And that was a heart attack. 90+% of my left anterior descending artery, the big one, was clogged by a blood clot. Then as I'm recovering from this heart attack, again, which almost took my life, it was a close call. My then 6-year-old daughter was asking me, what happened? How'd you almost die? And I had to be really honest with her and honest with myself and engage with what was bearing down on my heart. And for me, I believe, decades of telling the stories of violence, but also the violence that my family has passed from generation to generation, beginning more than a century ago in Jim Crow, Georgia. And so here I am, generations later, grappling with a different kind of violence, the violence within. And I say in the book that a blood clot and a bullet are different things, but both can twist and shred life. And both have a similar root in how we experience this country and what it means to survive being Black. Because you might survive a gunshot, but we're not sleeping because of the microaggressions we experience at work. We're dealing with other elements because of the air we're breathing. Even if you are more educated and have more wealth than your poor white neighbors, or some white folks in a different county or a different city, you're more likely to live in worse conditions. It was clear in answering my daughter's question, her innocent curiosity about what almost happened to Daddy, forced me to be more vulnerable than I ever expected to. And so the book became a braiding of memoir and history and deep reporting that leads me from rural Jim Crow, Georgia, through the North and back to the South and back to New Orleans. The subject matter of the book is certainly heavy, and for many might see it as dark, but it's the reality of the juxtaposition of the Black experience in America. Our deep joy and the richness of our culture, and that we built the road by walking it despite all the odds. And then the great violence that we face. And that's what makes the joy, the love, the fight, that much more potent and necessary. I do have hope that in illuminating and humanizing the experiences of people, that we will feel a greater connection to each other that we have had. And whether it's in the documentary where people are healing themselves when all else fails, or in my book where people are finding a way to summon the strength, even though pieces of them are fractured, they're still standing strong and want to see change and want to push for change, I think that gives me the greatest hope of all.